Greetings and welcome to the Horror Report, a breakdown of all the scary films and TV shows you either love, hate or are too scared to face alone. Extreme cinema with a smile. High Tension, also known as Switchblade Romance, is a 2003 movie that formed part of the new French extremity movement. The film was written and directed by Alexandre and stars Cécile de France, Maïwenn and Philippe Nahon. The movie tells the story of two friends, Alex and Marie, who become targets of a sadistic killer during a weekend getaway. But things are far from that simple. Not only does the movie showcase the pain and brutality that you would expect from French extremity horror, but also there's a twist ending that has divided audiences and created a whirlwind of controversy. I'll be describing this Gallic gorefest scene by shocking scene, so there are spoilers ahead. At the end I'll discuss the film's bizarre conclusion and give you my thoughts on this incredibly controversial film. The movie opens with a woman whispering over and over, "I'll never let anybody come between us anymore." As she repeats this mantra, we see glimpses of the person who's been talking. The fidgeting movements of her hands and feet tell us she is not in a good way. As the camera pans up her back, we see that she's in a hospital gown, and through the gap in the rear, we see the aftermath of something awful. She is absolutely covered in scars and bruises. In a moment of lucidity, the woman looks towards the camera in front of her and asks, "Is it recording?" This opening section is presented with a sickly blue-green palette and is shot in harsh lighting. It does a wonderful job of conveying that something isn't right here. Then a flash of white and we're following the same woman as she drags herself battered and bruised through the woods, making her way towards the nearest road. She's covered in filth and is bleeding profusely through a makeshift bandage on her arm. As the opening credits roll, we're treated to a quintessentially early 2000s industrial atmospheric score, and we see a new perspective. A car is driving down this same forest road. The driver swerves to avoid a shape in the road and almost crashes his car. As he looks around to see what the blur was, a distressed woman leaps at his window and begs for help. The credits end and we're suddenly exposed to a much warmer colour palette. Marie wakes up in the back of the car. Her friend Alex is driving. Marie demands a cigarette and then recounts her bizarre dream to Alex as they drive to Alex's parents' house in the country. Marie explains how she was running barefoot through the woods, unable to get clear of her pursuer. Alex asks about the identity of the mystery figure and Marie says, "It was me. Like I was chasing myself." Alex teases her friend for not having normal dreams, and Marie dismisses the idea. She doesn't want to be normal. The two then move into some light-hearted argument about the previous night out. Alex hooked up with some guy, and as she was left lonely, Marie got drunk as hell. They exchange insults, and then move on to talking about how they're going on this trip to lay off the partying. They need to get studying done. Already we're getting these hints that Marie is too dependent on Alex. Over at Alex's family home, her little brother is excited for the arrival of his big sister. He wants to show her his new cowboy outfit. His mother sends him and Hendrix the dog inside as the camera moves over to an altogether less wholesome scene. A shady figure in what can only be described as a murder van seems to be getting down to business on a nearby dirt road. As he finishes up, we can see the head he was getting was quite literal. He dumps the severed cranium on the roadside and drives away. The night draws in and we're back with the students. Marie has taken over the driving duties while her friend gets some rest. However, she keeps looking over at Alex and when questioned blames it on Alex still having glitter on her face. They finally arrive at the farmhouse and Alex introduces her father, brother and dog to Marie. She looks kind of shy and uncomfortable when other people are thrown into the mix. Here we get a great scene that really shows off Marie's disconnection. As Alex carries her brother and chats with her father, they're lost in the back of the shot, in darkness and out of focus, while Marie is alone in the foreground, almost oblivious to everything around her. Put a pin in this. We will come back to this a few times. Once Marie is set up in her room, they both go down to the kitchen for some food. They discuss Alex's love life and how she likes to steer clear of single guys. The way she looks at it, if a guy's taken, there's probably nothing wrong with him. Alex talks about how she needs to get in shape in order to get the attention of her current crush. Marie offers to go to salsa lessons with her, but Alex ignores the suggestion by deflecting and changing the subject. The conversation moves on to Marie's love life, but she quickly becomes defensive and decides to go out for a smoke instead. As Marie goes out, she turns and while shrouded in shadow, smiles and informs Alex that she enjoyed meeting her family. An ominous musical sting plays as Alex says this. She walks to the outside of the house, and then takes a seat on a swing in the garden. From there, Marie can see her friend taking a shower. She watches her for some time, and then quickly goes in the house, locking doors and turning off lights on the way. Rather than go to sleep though, Marie puts in some headphones and starts listening to music. She has other things on her mind. While the music builds, Marie starts to masturbate on the bed while thinking about Alex. As she becomes more frantic, we see cuts to all the sleeping members of the household, and at the same time, we see the murder van from earlier emerging from the darkness. It makes its way out of the void of the night and parks up outside the farmhouse. The pets start to become restless. This commotion distracts Marie, so she gets up and has a look out the window. The doorbell rings and wakes up Alex's dad. He goes to the front door to investigate the incessant bell ringing and gets a straight razor to the face. Marie then jumps back from the window, and what follows is one of my favourite parts of camera work in the entire film. The camera pulls back from a close-up on Marie, whips through the house and settles at the foot of the stairs where Alex's dad is bleeding out from the face. As the intruder enters the home, the movie keeps cutting back to Marie. She's lit from above by a harsh light and the background is almost non-existent. Here we see another representation of Marie being disconnected from the world. This is the point where I think we start to see things changing in this reality. If you know the ending, you'll know why this is. If not, just make a few mental notes as we proceed. Not everything is what it seems. The home invader dispatches Hendrix the dog and then sets about ending Alex's father in a unique fashion. Death by sideboard. The fascinating thing about this kill is both the over-the-top absurdity of the result juxtaposed against the methodical personal way the killer sets up the decapitation. The intruder follows his victim as he tries to scale the stairs, slowly pushing his head into position between the banisters before kicking him into place and lining up the cabinet to drive it home. Yes, the whole thing is a crazy makeshift homemade guillotine that ends in a fountain of blood spraying everywhere, but the pacing and build-up makes this hit different from the contemporary gore flicks that were coming out of the US torture movement. Alex's mother is woken up from the noise in the hallway and goes to investigate, along the way telling the little boy to go back to bed. Alex has earplugs in and is oblivious to all the commotion. The mother gets a good look at her headless husband and then the intruder comes at her with the blade. Upstairs, Marie is trying to get the police involved, but the killer is coming, so she hides under the bed, hoping that the mystery man will look elsewhere. After a tense scene of the man exploring the bedroom and the ensuite bathroom, he moves on to Alex's room. He takes her by surprise, traces the blade across her neck and signals for her to stay quiet. Back with Marie, she hears Alex screaming. That spurs her into action. She quietly makes her way down the floor to look for a phone in the master bedroom. She finds the cradle, but no phone. Marie then hides in the cupboard when she hears a noise outside. Through the slats in the cabinet door, she sees Alex's mother crawl into the room, followed by the killer who slices her throat open in front of her. The mother falls to the ground and off camera we hear some grotesque sounds and see plumes of blood hitting the cupboard door. The killer wipes the blade clean and leaves the room. Marie comes out of hiding to find the mother on the floor, her throat agape and her hand has been severed. Curiously enough, with her last breath, she whispers to Marie, "Why?" Marie finally gets to Alex's room to find her chained and gagged. They hear the little brother outside the house. From the window, Marie can see the little boy and the killer, with a shotgun, entering the cornfield. A single shotgun blast is heard. Alex begins to despair. Marie tries her best to console Alex by explaining that if the intruder wanted to kill her, she'd already be dead. She begs Alex to be quiet while she looks for a phone to get help. Their salvation relies on the invader not knowing there is another person beside Alex in the house. Marie gets to the kitchen to discover the phone lines have been cut. Hearing Alex being thrown into a van outside, Marie grabs a knife and leaves. From the outside, Marie can see the man looking around the farmhouse. He finds a family photo and cuts Alex out of it. While this is happening, Marie jumps into the back of the van to help her friend. She doesn't have time to get Alex free of the chains, so she prepares to stab the man as soon as he comes to the door of the van. However, the plan is foiled when the intruder slides the panel door shut and padlocks it without looking inside. They then drive away as the camera pans across the scene of devastation left behind. Once they get back on the road, the abductor puts on the radio, and in a moment of dark comedy, Et tous les filles, to all the girls, begins to play as he adds Alex's photo to a macabre collage in the cab of the van. As Marie tries to open a panel in the rear with a kitchen knife, Alex begins to wail. They look up and notice the blood and scratch marks on the inside of the van, but Marie tries to comfort Alex again. There are two of them in this escape attempt. All the other women were here alone, so at least they have that to hold on to. Marie eventually opens up a way to get out of the van as it pulls over to refuel. She gives Alex the knife and makes a break for it, heading towards the service station store to get help from an attendant. As the killer is fast approaching, Marie calls out for the staff member to contact the police but can't tell him why. She has to quickly then get into a place and hide. The murderer takes a wander around the store, incessantly talking about women and sex to Jimmy the clerk at the counter. The late night worker seems distracted and our killer thinks Jimmy has got a girl there. At the checkout, Jimmy notices the blood on the freak's hands. Jimmy's obviously scared and goes to reach for the gun. As he does this, the killer touches his hand in a rather peculiar manner and asks for a bottle of alcohol from behind the locked cabinet. He shouldn't be selling alcohol this late at night, but he wants to get this maniac out of the shop as quickly as possible. Jimmy gets a bottle from the top shelf, but as he turns around, gets an axe to the chest, Jack Torrance style. The madman then turns off all the lights and starts sweeping the area for witnesses. He thinks Jimmy had somebody there with him, but Marie slips out of the store and into the nearby service station public toilets. She frantically looks for a place to hide and disappears into a cubicle on the men's side. The killer checks all the stalls in the women's wing and then makes his way across to where Marie is hiding. She's up against the wall in a frantic state of panic, occasionally peeking out to see where this monster is. Luckily for Marie, he was just there to use the facilities. He finishes up and walks out, without washing his hands. The tension cranks up and Marie slowly emerges from her hiding place and makes her way out of the bathroom, expecting the madman to jump out at any moment. This whole scene is an homage to the subway bathroom scene in Maniac 1980, although here, Aja subverts expectations with the conclusion of the scene. As the camera follows Marie down and then back up to take a drink from the sink, you expect to see this film's version of Frank Vito standing behind her, but instead there's no one. The director ratchets up the tension, and instead of a scare, the audience gets a brief moment of relief. This calm is fleeting though, as the sound of the van outside signals to Marie that she may be saved from a surprise attack, but Alex is in even more trouble as she is now alone. Marie calls the police, but gets little help as she doesn't know where she is, or even have the license plate of the van that Alex is held captive in. Her patience runs out, and having seen the gun and car keys behind the desk, decides to take action herself. She jumps into Jimmy's muscle car and pursues the van. What follows is a chase sequence with the awesome use of Newborn by Muse. Marie gets the pedal to the floor to catch up with the killer as the music builds. Back in the van, the unnamed monster has a drink from his stolen alcohol. He then pours a load on Alex and pokes a lit match through the window of the cab, threatening to set her on fire. Once he gets the reaction he wanted, he extinguishes the match and laughs. As the pace of the song picks up, Marie draws closer to the van, her face a picture of concentration and intent. Alex lays in the van and grips the knife. The music fades out as the van pulls down a side road. Marie follows. After some time on this dirt track, she loses sight of the van. Just as she's about to lose hope, it looms up in her rearview mirror and rams into the car. She grabs for the gun, but as she does, she sees the driver's hand sticking out of the van window. It's full of bullets. He unloaded the gun at the petrol station. Marie tries to get away down an unlit country road. The van is stupendously fast and agile, so she has to push herself and the vehicle to the limit to stay ahead. Eventually it's just too much and she crashes into the forest. Battered and bloody, Marie emerges from the wreck and limps barefoot to some nearby greenhouses. As she bandages up her wounds, she sees a beam of light cut through the darkness. The killer is tracking her down. Marie fashions a weapon from a wooden stake wrapped in barbed wire and goes on the offensive, tracking the killer by following the light. She thinks he's got the drop on him, but the flashlight was tied to the roof of the greenhouse. The man appears behind Marie and wraps her head in plastic to suffocate her to the point of passing out. In an absolutely disgusting scene, he mounts her, holds the straight razor to her neck and sticks his filthy fingers in her mouth, while he talks about Alex and how they are both into her. This visual of a blood-drenched Marie, half covered in plastic with filthy digits in her mouth and a knife to her throat, encapsulates the visceral brutality of the new French extremity movement. Marie reaches for a rock and smashes her attacker on the side of the head. This stuns him enough to allow her to get up, grab her barbed wire bat and go to town on his face, turning it into a meaty mess. She leans in to check if he's breathing, and as she pulls back, he tries to strangle her. Marie then uses the plastic wrap to suffocate the monster. Back at the service station, a police 4x4 pulls up and the officers investigate the scene. They find Jimmy's corpse, and when they check the CCTV of the brutal axe murder, we see something that changes the whole outlook of the story. So, last warning for spoilers. If you'd rather watch the film first and come back for the analysis, go do that. Okay then, spoiler territory starts in 3, 2, 1. On the playback we can see Jimmy getting the alcohol from the locked cabinet, but as he turns around it's Marie who's brandishing the axe. She stands over the body and then looks into the CCTV camera. Of course, this turns the story inside out and changes everything. Marie is the monster. Oh god, Marie's the monster. At this point, the film wants to not only infer that the murders have happened, but also instead of a crazed home invader, it was an invited guest who destroyed the family. Back at the van, a beaming Marie opens the door and explains to Alex that it's all over. However, Alex is still panicking and crying. With what we now know, every earlier scene of the bound and gagged Alex screaming takes on a different meaning. She's been afraid of Marie the entire time. Alex grips the knife as Marie sets her free. Marie explains that she's killed him and that now they're safe. Alex brandishes the knife in Marie's face and threatens to slice her up as we see flashbacks of Marie massacring the family at the farmhouse. Marie seems to have no idea that she's the one that committed these atrocities and is pleading with Alex that now it will be okay for them. Alex slices Marie's face and stabs her in the body before running off into the forest. Marie breaks and the murderous van man takes over again. He pulls the knife from his body, grabs a concrete saw and takes off after Alex. As the view switches back and forth between Alex and a pursuer, we see both Marie and the monster revving the saw and saying, "I'll take care of you, Alex." Alex reaches the road and begs for help from a passing car, in much the same way that we saw from Marie's dream at the start of the movie. The driver, in a panic, struggles to start the car. Before long, the saw-wielding maniac is on top of the car. He rams the blade through the windshield, tears the driver apart, and creates a fountain of blood that drenches Alex. Alex reaches for a crowbar and gets out of the car while the maniac paces around the other side. She drags herself away as fast as she can, but it's no good. The killer easily catches up with her. He advances on her with the blade in her face, asking if she loves him. Eventually, Alex has to say yes, she does love him. Upon hearing that, Marie is back. She puts the saw aside and kisses Alex. In this moment of distraction, Alex stabs Marie with the crowbar from the car. Marie looks pained, but tells Alex that nobody will come between them ever again. She slumps forward and repeats the mantra that we heard at the start of the film: "I'll never let anybody come between us anymore." As the scene fades out, we come back in to the restless feet and hands of Marie as she rocks back and forth on the hospital bed. Muse's newborn starts to play again. From the other side of the one-way mirror, Alex is observing the patient. She asks someone, "Are you sure she can't see me?" Moments later, Marie turns to the mirror, smiles and quickly reaches out her shackled hands towards Alex. So the ending, and the first of the controversies. In a spectacular rug pull, it turns out that the evil home intruder with supernatural instincts and a van that defies logic is a manifestation of Marie's most violent tendencies. Conjuring up this crazed predator is Marie's way of coping with the atrocities she will commit in order to serve her obsession with her friend Alex. Marie has an unhealthy infatuation with her friend Alex and doesn't like it when people get in the way of it. Hearing about the boyfriend that Alex wants to get with is bad enough, but seeing how close she is with her family is just too much for Marie to deal with. She snaps and does the only thing that makes sense to her: remove Alex's family and make her reliant on Marie's protection. To that end, create a home invader that massacres the family and kidnaps Alex. The whole movie we see is based on the tale Marie is telling to whoever is interviewing her at the facility we see at the start of the film. It's a classic use of the unreliable narrator. And of course, a twist of this magnitude draws negative reactions from audiences for numerous reasons. Some feel that the story doesn't matter because we don't know what truly happened, or that Marie is an offensive gay stereotype. Others feel that Marie's version of events leaves massive plot holes. The whole topic of Marie and representation is something I'm going to cover in a video at a later date. I want to give it the time and thought it deserves. This is a movie that on first viewing I enjoyed as a gory spectacle. In rewatching it multiple times for this review and listening to commentaries and interviews, I can say that despite the controversy, I've enjoyed it more with each watch. For me, knowing the story I've just seen is from Marie's distorted perspective made me think about what could have happened instead of what is shown. It's the kind of thing that if you enjoyed the film, it gives you something to chew on, and if you didn't, it just gives you another reason to dislike it. Neither is the right answer. Was there a van and a car chase? Probably not. Marie tied up Alex, threw her into a car and fantasised about the car chase. We see the truck appear at the house out of the dark of night and disappear into the forest before the final chase. Where did the cement saw come from? Alex's father fixed up the ruined farmhouse. It's completely plausible that there were plenty of power tools at the farmhouse. If not a cement saw, then something else just as brutal. Critics may not like it, but most of these plot holes and problems can be fairly easily explained away. So that's High Tension, Switchblade romance if you're nasty, an interesting part of the new French extremity movement and one that I think will divide audiences. Let me know what you thought of this movie and also what's your favourite film, and I genuinely mean that. I love discovering new scares or being reminded of ones I've forgotten about. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and comment below if you enjoy my work. It's free for you but it means a great deal to me. Thanks and stay spooky.